Are you absolutely sure? The registrar didn't even look up when he asked, like it didn't matter, like it never mattered. Emma Whitfield didn't answer. Her fingers tightened around the pen. For a second, just a second, it felt heavier than it should. Not because she was scared, but because she understood exactly what this meant. Not a wedding, a deal, a transaction. Miss Whitfield, he pressed. From behind her. Sign it. Her father's voice. Calm, cold, final. Emma exhaled slowly and signed. Emma Whitfield. The ink spread across the paper like a point of no return. A whisper moved through the room. Soft laughter. Judgment. She didn't turn. She already knew what they saw. A billionaire's daughter, marrying a man in worn-out boots. Then, the man beside her stepped forward. No hesitation. No nerves. No performance. He signed. Daniel Hayes. Simple. Controlled. Like this moment meant nothing to him. And that bothered her. The registrar stamped the paper. Done. Just like that. Her life was no longer hers. But then, something strange happened. At the exact same moment, every phone in the room started vibrating. Not one, all of them. A ripple of confusion spread. People pulled out their phones, checked screens, and their expressions changed instantly. Shock, confusion, fear. The market had just shifted. Hard. Something massive had happened. Billions moving in seconds. A name, long buried, had just returned. Emma didn't check her phone. She looked at Daniel, at his calm face, at his steady hands. And for the first time, something didn't make sense. Emma Whitfield had grown up in power. Not loud power, the dangerous kind. Old money, old control. The Whitfield group wasn't just rich. It was untouchable. Until it wasn't. 3 failed deals. 1 silent betrayal. And suddenly, everything was collapsing. She found out 3 weeks earlier. No warning, just numbers. Cold, brutal truth. We're finished, her father said. Emma frowned. And the solution? A pause. Too long. Then, you marry him. She laughed. Actually laughed. You're serious? Yes. Who is he? Another pause. He's useful. That was the first lie. Daniel Hayes lived in a small house, 20 minutes outside the city. Quiet street. Nothing impressive. Nothing important. Emma stood at the door her first night, staring at it like it was a mistake. This is it? She asked. Yes. That was all he said. Inside, it wasn't luxurious, but it was real. A warm kitchen, used furniture, a space that actually felt lived in. It made her uncomfortable. You can sit, he said. I'm fine. She wasn't. The first week? Terrible. Not because of him. Because of how normal everything was. He woke early, made coffee, left breakfast, didn't ask if she wanted any, didn't try to impress her, didn't try to control her. He just existed. And somehow, that annoyed her more than anything else. Then small things started happening. One morning, her damaged designer heels were perfectly repaired. You did this, she asked. Yes. How? I know how. No explanation. No pride. Nothing. Then, one evening, she was arguing on a financial call. Numbers weren't adding up. A deal felt wrong. She ended the call, frustrated. Daniel was in the kitchen, quietly washing dishes. That deal won't work, he said. She froze. What? The margins collapse, the projections shift. Her heart skipped. That's exactly what I said. He shrugged. Then you're right. She stared at him. You're a mechanic. Yes. Something didn't add up. 2 days later, she overheard a call. Low voice. Controlled. Walk away from it. Pause. It's not worth it. Pause. I said no. She stepped in. He hung up immediately. What kind of work is that? She asked. Simple work. It wasn't. That night, she searched his name. Nothing. No history. No past. No trace. And that was impossible. The truth came in pieces. Hidden. Buried. Almost erased. An old article. Archived. Forgotten. She clicked it. Read once. Then again. Her breath stopped. Years ago, Daniel Hayes wasn't just rich. He was powerful. A billionaire investor. A man who built an empire and disappeared. No scandal. No explanation. Just gone. Left everything behind. Emma leaned back slowly. No, it couldn't be. But it was. The next morning, she confronted him. You lied. I didn't. You hid it. You didn't ask. That hit harder than it should. You let me think you were nothing. He looked at her. Calm. You already decided that. Silence. Heavy, because he was right. Then everything collapsed again. The company. Her family. Another attack. Stronger this time. Faster. By evening, it was over. Emma sat in silence. Hands shaking. Everything slipping away again. Daniel walked in. Looked at her once. What happened? She laughed weakly. Everything. He listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't judge. Then, okay. She snapped. Okay. He stood up. Made one call. Do it, he said calmly. Pause. Tonight. He hung up. Emma stared. What did you just do? He met her eyes. Fixed it. The next morning, the market changed. Completely. An anonymous fund had stepped in. Stabilized everything. Controlled everything. Saved everything. Emma sat frozen. She already knew. She looked at him. You did this. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. That's when everything changed. Not the money. Not the power. Her. She finally saw him. Not the clothes. Not the house. Not the lies she told herself. Him. You could have lived anywhere, she said. Yes. Why here? Because it's real. She hesitated. And me? A pause. Then, you weren't part of the plan. Her chest tightened. And now? He looked at her. Steady. You are. Weeks passed. Something shifted between them. Quiet. Unspoken. Real. Because now she understood. He didn't need her. Not her name. Not her money. Not her world. And still, he stayed. One evening, she stood by the window, watching the quiet street. The life she once hated. Now, it felt different. I was wrong, she said. About what? Everything. He didn't argue. Didn't comfort her. Just listen. She looked at him. I thought I was being forced into something beneath me. She paused. Then softly, I think I was being given something I wasn't ready for. For the first time, he wasn't unreadable. Something shifted in his eyes. Something real. She thought she lost everything that day. Her freedom, her future, her identity. But standing there now, in a quiet home, next to a man who needed nothing, she finally understood the truth. She hadn't been forced into a bad life. She had been forced into the only real one she'd ever have. And somehow, that changed everything. The first crack. It started small. One night, she was arguing on a business call. Numbers weren't adding up. The deal felt wrong. After hanging up, she walked into the kitchen. Zane was there, fixing something. You shouldn't take that deal, he said casually. She froze. What? The risk ratio is off, he continued. If one variable shifts, everything collapses. Her heart skipped. That's exactly what I said. He shrugged. Then you're right. She stared at him. Where did you learn that? Experience. What kind of experience? He didn't answer. The second crack. A phone call. Late night. Low voice. Controlled. Pull out. Pause. No negotiations. Another pause. I said no. She stepped into the hallway. He ended the call instantly. Work? She asked. Yes. What work? He looked at her. Different kinds. That wasn't an answer. And now she knew it. The truth she was never meant to find. Aisha didn't sleep that night. She investigated. Because that's what she was trained to do. Find patterns. Find truth. Find what others hide. Zayn Malik. Nothing unusual. Too clean. Too quiet. Too perfect. Then she found it. Buried. Old. almost erased. An article, a name, not Zayn Malik, a different identity, a different life, a man who once controlled billions, a man who built empires, and disappeared. Her hands went cold. Her heart beat loud in her ears. No! She checked again. And again. It all lined up. The timeline, the silence, the disappearance. Her husband wasn't poor. He was something far more dangerous. A man who walked away from power. The confrontation. The next morning, you lied to me. Zayn didn't look surprised. I didn't. You hid the truth. You never asked. That hit hard. You let me believe you were nothing. His eyes met hers. You had already decided that. Silence. Sharp. Uncomfortable. Because it was true. The attack. Then everything collapsed again. The company. The markets. A coordinated strike. Someone was trying to destroy her family completely. Aisha fought all day. Calls. Deals. Damage control. Nothing worked. By evening, it was over. She sat on the couch. Broken. We're finished, she whispered. Zayn walked in. Looked at her once. What happened? She told him everything. For the first time, he didn't stay quiet. He picked up his phone. Dialed. Execute it, he said calmly. Pause. Yes. Now. He hung up. Aisha stared. What did you do? He looked at her. What your father couldn't. The next morning, everything changed. Overnight, a massive silent force entered the market. Stabilized everything. Crushed the attack. Saved the company. No announcements. No headlines. Just power. Pure. Precise. Aisha sat frozen, watching the news. Then she looked at him. You did this. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The moment everything changed. That night, she saw him differently. Not as the man she was forced to marry, but as the man who never needed her world. You could have had everything, she said. I did. Then why leave it? He looked at her. Because none of it was real. Her chest tightened. And this is... He nodded. Yes. A pause. And me? Silence. Then, you weren't supposed to matter. Her breath caught. And now? He held her gaze. You do. The truth she finally understood. Weeks passed. Everything settled. But Aisha changed. Completely. She wasn't trapped anymore. She was awake. One evening, she stood by the window, watching the quiet street, the life she once hated. Now, it felt different. I was wrong, she said softly. Zayn glanced at her. About what? Everything. She turned to him, eyes steady. I thought I was being forced into something beneath me. A pause. Then she smiled faintly. But I was actually being given something rare. He didn't speak, didn't interrupt. I was forced to marry a man I didn't understand. She stepped closer and ended up with the only man who never needed to prove anything. Silence filled the room. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was real. She thought she had lost her freedom that day. But the truth was, she had been forced into the only life where love, power, and respect finally meant something real.